All right, so again, welcome to our 2021-2022 Welcome Back Educators webinar. As I said before, my name is Greg Fredericks, and I'm the Regional Coordinator for Social Studies and Blended Learning. And I'm joined by a couple of my colleagues here today. And so I would just ask them to introduce themselves. Donna, if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, and Linda as well.
Hi, I'm Donna Merlaw. I work on the ELA project with Linda, Nancy, and Greg, and I help with resources and other things.
And I'm Linda Brandon, and I'm the instructional technology consultant on the project, and I've been working on this since just about day one. I would say actually day two, and I'm happy to have you here today.
Of course, we're also joined by Jessica Biale, who is the voice on the other end of the phone, or if any of you ever have questions or inquiries about SSELA, you deal directly with Jessica, and so she's here as well. And again, just to remind all of you, as a follow-up to anything that we do surface or share today, if you do have any questions or want to follow up with any of us, please feel free to do so. And you can do that directly from the site. And then if there's a particular question you do have as a follow-up to anything that Donna shares or that Linda shares, please feel free to reach out and we'll put you directly into contact with them. So our agenda for today is pretty short. As we said, we're trying to make our webinars bite-sized, right-sized for teachers. Again, welcome back. We find ourselves to continue to persevere through challenging situations. Certainly 2021 to 2022 continues to feel different than quote unquote normal schooling. And we here at SSELA are here to support you as you find yourselves in a mixture of blended, hybrid, or possibly virtual spaces. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the updates that are going on. We do have a K-2 revision, which is taking place with 11 teachers from across the region and across the state. Donna will speak very briefly to the 4th grade work that she and Nancy are engaged in. And we'll also talk a little bit about some of our westward expansion work that we're doing in 7th grade. And then Linda will speak about some of the technology updates that continue to populate within the platform itself. At the very end of our time today, we're going to talk about some updates from the State Education Department, specifically the Civic Readiness Initiative and the Civic Seal, which really do impact social studies classrooms K-12. We'll also be talking briefly about the Regents Exams and some of the shifts that are occurring with the Regents Exams, which do actually impact what social studies instruction should and will look like in all classrooms K-12. And what you will begin to see over the course of this year and the years to follow is that many of the new materials and resources that are populated or created within the SSELA platform will come more into alignment with this new civic initiative, as well as with the new structure of the Regents Exams in 10th and 11th grade. And so again, all of our work does come from the feedback that we've received from teachers. We know that over the last year and a half, we've found ourselves pivoting into a new environment, into new challenges. And so there is that continual struggle of how do we provide high quality social studies experiences in K-8 classrooms, the specific challenges that we find with the limited time and scheduling of K-5 classrooms. And then as we look at grades 6, 7, and 8 as transition years to prepare students for success in high school and on the Regents Exams, how do we provide high quality instruction there as well? And so our team has kind of dedicated or built 4 different domains that we look through when we have been doing revisions or when we've been collaborating with our teacher writers. The first one is the idea of developing explicit directions on teaching both in person and virtually, and making lessons that can be turnkeyed in a variety of different spaces. The second initiative, which has been really spearheaded by Donna, is the idea of bringing new texts into the curriculum that represent diverse points of view and also our updated texts. And so they more closely reflect what the state is asking us to teach directly within the curriculum. We do have the incorporation of many new technologies within the curriculum as well, and that is spearheaded by Linda. And again, she'll be speaking to that briefly later on. And also the examination of the community that we serve. SSELA, we feel extremely fortunate to serve such a large community. There's more than 13,000 educators across the state that currently utilize SSELA. and hundreds of thousands of students. And so just making sure that all of those students see themselves reflected in the curriculum, diverse narratives and diverse stories, and that we are telling accurate history, right? Making sure that we're bringing in multiple perspectives is critical. And that's something that we're going to continue to really drive towards. We also, again, do really rely on all of you for this information. So as you come across new resources, new texts, new primary sources that you think are high quality, we always ask our teacher members to share those out. And if possible, we really do love to incorporate those into the curriculum. Because as much as this curriculum exists as a Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES product, it's also a reflection of the excellence of all of you as educators across New York State. And so it's a symbiotic partnership, and we would ask you to always engage with us through that partnership. And so just a brief summary of the work that is currently going on. And as we do go through the year, you will see resources being updated in some of these grade levels in real time. And Linda will speak a little bit about how you'll be able to tell when resources are updated or when they're new. We do have a K through second grade revision currently going on. We have 11 wonderful teachers from across the state who are working with myself and Donna and Nancy and Linda on really examining different areas of need within the kindergarten, first grade, and second grade levels, looking at what materials are pedagogically and developmentally appropriate, and making sure that they're creating structures where students feel welcomed into those classroom spaces, where the materials, again, are appropriate for the particular age levels, where there is vocabulary being really built out and robustly emphasized in all of those grade levels, and as appropriate, updating the text within those particular projects, as well as some of the technology that is being utilized in that. So our K through 2 revision is in the part of the process now where there's auditing going on, but you may see some materials and some resources change over the course of the year in real time. Our goal is that by next summer, all of the changes to the K through 2 revision that are being led by these 11 teachers and 14 members are populated within the curriculum. But again, we're very excited and we're very fortunate to have people from all over New York State participating in this project. Donna, would you like to unmute yourself and speak briefly to the work that you and Nancy are actively engaged in grade 4?
Yes, Greg. As an aside, Nancy's having trouble getting in, so she's trying.
Okay.
Maybe Jess could help her out. Yeah.
Sure.
With the 4th grade, Nancy and I are really reviewing lessons and looking for ways to make them more interactive for students and to have them working with a variety of different types of artifacts, primary source documents, literature, etc., to actually demonstrate they have understanding of historical thinking, of geographic reasoning, of economic systems, of civics, etc. We have redesigned the first lesson in Unit 1 that deals with geography, and I think Linda's going to talk a little bit about that going forward. But it's more interactive, and it certainly asks kids to critically think. So that's kind of the way we're moving forward, albeit slowly, but we're looking at trying to make some changes in that regard.
Thanks so much, Donna. And again, just as an aside, we do get feedback in real time from teachers. You know, one of the limitations of the structure that we all exist in is that myself and Donna and Linda and Nancy and Jessica are not in classroom spaces. So one of the most valuable things that we'll always ask from you as educators is, as you do come across these new resources or these redesigned lessons, and I have to tell you, some of the stuff that Donna and Nancy are working on really will bring history and social studies alive in classroom spaces in a way that I don't think it was before necessarily in the 4th grade curriculum. But we really do value when we get feedback about what does work and what doesn't work. And ultimately that creates a better experience and a better product for all educators. So again, when we say that we really do like the feedback and we really do like hearing from you as teachers, there's always time and space for you as members of this community to meet with us and to connect with us around just building the best possible SS-ELA curriculum possible. At the 7th grade level, myself and Donna are currently working on the westward expansion unit or lessons within the unit. And the focus is really going to be on things like primary sources, having students be analytical thinkers instead of passive thinkers, which is the way that those current lessons are designed. And also the idea of the representation of multiple narratives and perspectives, right? Really exploring how that particular moment in American history impacted different groups of people in very diverse ways. And a lot of what Donna and I are actively trying to build into that curriculum are things and skill sets that are being reflected on the new Regents exam. And so again, when we talk about that movement towards supporting student success, K through 12, even though SSELA is a K through 8 curriculum, we really are going to be emphasizing analytical thinking, the use of primary source documents, and having students be critical examiners of different moments within history. Anything that you wanted to add to that, Donna?
I think the key piece is that kids will be interacting with different types of materials and really thinking about how different people felt during that time period.
Thank you. All right, so moving on, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Linda. And Linda, if you want to speak through these things, and I'll be happy to toggle them open for you since I'm presenting my screen, if that's the easiest way to do it. Up, you're muted.
Thanks, Greg. Yeah, I just want to mention a few things here. I've got a lot of hyperlinks on this slide, but I will not be sharing all of them given our limited time. But I think it's really important that you do know that something that we've really been looking forward to for a long time and have just incorporated very recently is the fact that now when you go to the curriculum and you will see when a lesson has been revised or updated, which I think is really important because some teachers, you know, they may have a binder of certain things that they keep, and they have to realize that a lot of these changes are being done in real time. So you can see the work that Donna just referred to in grade 4, unit 1, lesson 1. Wherever anything has been changed, it has the word updated. Day 2 didn't change, so we did not put anything next to day 2. But automatically, when I add new files or when I update the files, they will say updated. So for instance, Greg, if you open that file right there, day 3 map activity, this is a brand new map activity. I think you can click on the word English. There you go.
Sure, and I will just point out right here, right, we do see right in parentheses there that new. So updated means resources that were there that have been refreshed, and new means brand new.
Right.
To the platform itself.
Yeah. So in a lot of situations, you might only see new resources listed with the resources. But, you know, if you see updated next to the lesson, that means that part of the lesson has been updated. So make sure to pay attention to that. So you can see here that Donna and Nancy have done a much more comprehensive map activity on day 3. And what we did here so that the students would have the hyperlinks is we've hyperlinked the resources that we want them to use right on this PDF. So you can download this. Hopefully, when you download it, you can save it to your Google Drive or your Microsoft OneDrive account, and then push it out to students through whatever school management system you have, student management system, so that this will be a document that students will be able to use directly and get their links directly from it. So Donna and Nancy, interestingly, you can go back to that other page, Greg, thanks. They found this wonderful new website with these clickable maps. And all 3 or 4 of us were on a conference call one day, and we were trying to get the clickable maps to work, and we couldn't figure out how. So we took it upon ourselves to actually include on the grade 4, unit 1, lesson 1 resource page a screencast of how to get those clickable maps to work, because they really are wonderful. But we were a little bit stymied because it was not that intuitive as to how to get it to work. So I think that if you are a grade 4 teacher, you will enjoy working with that new content. Another change that we're making technologically, as technology is ever changing every day, no one can quite keep up with it all. You know, several years ago, it's probably 10 years now, we developed many, many, many smartboard lessons for our elementary teachers, because that was really what was happening in the classroom. And the teachers clamored for this content because they were all getting smartboards and they wanted to be able to use this curriculum with the smartboard. So as time went on, we had more and more districts that no longer had smartboard or could not access those files. So we are beginning to phase those out. So if you are a smartboard district and you want to keep those files, I suggest that you download them, because when you do go to a smartboard lesson on our site, it will download to your local computer, and save them there, because they're not going to be updated and they are going to be phased out. So what we're doing instead is we are trying, when possible and when applicable, we're developing other types of interactivity that will replicate that smartboard activity for your students. So if you want to go to, I guess you could go to that grade 6 unit 2 lesson 2, or any one of those links. And then if you scroll down to the resources in that, and go to, try the presentation there, Greg, unless it's under, yeah. Right, so what I've been doing, you know, especially as teachers request them, by the way, so if you have a request for them, you should write to us, is I've been pulling these into PowerPoint, because even if you're a Google district, you know that you can open a PowerPoint file, upload it to your Google Drive, and it will become a Google slideshow. So this, you can see how we've like reformatted the lesson just the way that it was on a smart board, but the graphics are much more clear, and you'll be able to view them on your display, whatever type of display it is. Now, I actually should have you go back one more time, Greg, and have one of the ones that I've made into an interactive, which would be, go back there to, let's go to grade 1, unit 1, lesson 5. And this is the resources for this unit. So you can see there's an interactive whiteboard file, but if you go to student handouts, you will see that it's become a drag and drop activity using PowerPoint or Google Slides, whichever one you happen to have. So this will replicate that type of activity that you might have done in front of the class with the smartboard. So you see on slide 2, we now have text boxes, and those text boxes can be dragged and dropped into the appropriate boxes underneath. So again, you can have this as a student-centered activity if you're using Google Classroom or Schoology or Microsoft Teams, and you can either do this as a large screen activity in the front of the class with the kids, have them come up, or have them do it individually. So we'll be doing more and more of that as it is applicable and as we have the time. So again, keep us informed of what you'd like to see, and we will do our best to help you out. Now, if you go down to grade 7, unit 5, lesson 1, here was an example of something that we couldn't quite replicate in PowerPoint. So if you go to internet resources, Greg, and you'll see there, it says new, there we go. So this is using a website that I subscribe to, WordWall. So I've created the same activity using the site, and it's usable for all of you when the students were going to drag and drop each activity into the correct place. And again, it's self-correcting. And if you scroll down on the page, you can actually choose different formats to view this file. So that would be something, again, that you could do as a large screen class-centered activity rather than pushing it out individually. So again, we're trying to make it interactive. We do have all our mini units, which I'm sure you know how to find, and Greg can remind you of that. And we still have several hyperdocs that are incorporated in the social studies curriculums. For instance, the Erie Canal in grade 4, unit 4, lesson 2, which is a Google Doc. It's a But for districts that don't use Google, this was a little bit challenging. So I just want you to keep in mind that if you're not a Google Doc, you may want to Microsoft format. The mini units have a lot of interactive files with them on civics. And so explore those appropriate to your own particular grade level. And they are banded for grades K-2 and 3-5. And I think we've showed this at prior webinars, so I don't think we have to spend too much time with that. And the other last thing I have on there was just when we have templates that are applicable for you to make it easy for you as the teacher to incorporate some of the robust classroom projects like classroom books. We've provided, for instance, in grade 2, unit 1, lesson 5, a template that you can bring in and again, push out to your students so that as the year goes on, they can make this project.
Great, thanks
So
much,
I
Linda.
think I talked, anything else anybody have to say or comments?
What we'll do is at the very end, if you do have questions or comments, we'll certainly just ask you to pop them into the chat. But Linda, myself, Donna, and Nancy, we are also, as I said, able to connect with you individually. We do spend a large amount of time today. Linda and I kind of worked on 2 different questions that teachers had this morning. And so we are here to assist you in real time as questions or wonderings or needs arise. And we'll always try to build something or make something for you that's going to help you and assist you in your classroom space.
Yeah, so we try to have pretty quick turnaround time on that. We did a good job today, Greg, right?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. So just a couple more really important points, and these are state education department updates. The first one is the Social Studies and Civic Readiness Initiative. As many of you may know, and this has been mentioned in many of our listservs, the state is piloting this year a brand new seal or distinction on the Regents exam around civic readiness. And while SSELA is a K-8 curriculum, and specifically this Regents initiative deals most directly with 9 through 12, the state is asking all educators who teach social studies in their classrooms to look at the practices, specifically the civics practice and the civics standard, and to think about how they push out to students important and key information about community involvement, being aware of the government structures that we operate and live within, and to think about how we can all be good members of our communities and good citizens. So what's going to happen here is I will share these links out underneath this video. So for those of you that are accessing this afterwards, and for those of you that are here today, what I would encourage you to do is we will post this video in the next few days. It'll be on the website along with all of our other webinars. And so I will post the link to the Civic Readiness Initiative landing page, which gives the description of the initiative K through 12. But then there are 2 really important guidance documents, and I'll just open up one right now so you can all see it. There's a K through 4 guidance document and then a 5 through 8 civics guidance document. And what this represents is what the state is really emphasizing at the particular grade levels. What is civics? What does it mean to have a civic ready student in a K through 4 classroom, with the focus being on community, which is probably the civics theme, which is most strongly represented in the K through 4 classroom, the different buckets that the state has said need to be satisfied in order for a student and a classroom space and the teacher to be engaged in civic readiness. And then some really specific examples of questioning techniques or questions that students should be able to answer, or activities that could be turnkeyed in the classroom space to support this really important initiative so that students feel connected to their classroom communities, to their broader communities, and to the United States as a whole. And so this will be shared underneath that. I'll also share this out again in the next listserv, and there's a K through 4 guidance document, as well as a 5 through 8 guidance document as well. The second important update from the state, which again seems like a high school update, but really is critical to all of our social studies spaces, are the Regents exams. And so this coming year, there will be the Global 2 Regents offered in both January and June, as well as an August administration. The US History Regents will not be offered until June. And the reason we're mentioning this is because The Global Regents, which was offered only one time in its new format before, is going to be seen by many students for the first time this coming school year. The US History Regents, the new framework Regents, is being pushed out for the very first time. And so I'll open it up in a second for Donna to speak to this, because Donna has a great deal of knowledge about the Global Regents in particular. But both of these exams really represent an emphasis on the social studies practices, while balancing that with students having core historical content knowledge. But as we think about the practices within our classroom spaces and the changes that will be coming to SSELA, you'll continue to see more primary and secondary source documents. You'll continue to see more analytical questions being asked of students, and you'll continue to see a shift of really having students make judgments about the information and the evidence that they're presented with, to help students to become more active learners and to move away from being more passive learners. Donna, what would you like to add?
I'd add a couple things.
Please.
Even though the global was first given in June 2019, it was also administered in August of 2019 and January of 2020. So there are 3 exams out there, so that if you're in a district that needs to look on the website for practice, they are there. The US administration as of June 1st happens that early because they have to standard set the exam. And that's why there is no exam in January, because they aren't able to standard set it then. Students need to have completed the course before they take the exam. So bottom line is that is the only US exam being offered, and it's June 1st so that they can standard set it. Greg is absolutely correct in saying that everything on this exam is tied to both content and skills. Every multiple choice question is tied to a task model that's tied to skills. So when you're engaging students K to 8 in your social studies practices, you want to call out those skills, have kids know that they're using those particular skills and why, and doing it in a very open way so that kids understand that I'm using the geographic reasoning skill of analyzing maps in this particular case for this particular reason. The more kids are able to identify and use those skills, the greater toolkit they have moving forward in life, not just for the test.
Any questions? So we're going to now transition to the final part. The one thing I will say is this webinar was more of an informational share than the ones going forward. For those of you that have attended our webinars over the course of last year, you know that we often do workshop models and there's interactivity built in. We just felt that there was a lot of information to share out. The one thing we would also ask is that, every month we think about what webinars we should curate and offer for teachers. And the best ones that we've offered so far have been at the recommendation of teachers. So if there's ever a particular idea or concept that you want to explore, I can see that we'll probably be offering one on civics. Linda always does one on new and updating technology platforms. But we really do want to hear from you going forward in terms of what your needs are. And we are happy to curate an entire webinar around those needs and to really make the learning educator-centered. So again, thank you for joining us this afternoon. I am going to stop the recording at this point. Please do feel free that if you do have any questions to pop them into the chat. But again, we look forward to supporting you over the course of this year, and we wish you all a successful and healthy 2021-2022 school year. Thank you all for being here today. Pleasure. All right, Linda and Donna, thank you so much for being here today. Appreciate you as always. Doesn't look like we have any questions. And so hopefully you both get to get outside and enjoy some of this beautiful weather. Up, you're muted. I know. There's no way for me to get away from the blinds shining on my face. I tried to put up like felt over it, and it always just looks like I'm like in one of those old time detective movies. right? Where they're like leaned back in the chair. It happened with the OC21 orientation. It happens now. I mean, I don't know. I guess you know what though? My old office had no window. So I just bask in the sunlight, like, you know, at least.
Oh, that's nice. You have a window. Yeah.
I mean, I used to just be in a cement room that was an internal room and had no window. And so I would come in the morning and have no sunlight and I would leave and it'd be dark. So, you know, at least I have the sunlight now. So, all right.
So do
Well,
you think that question from before was answered by that guy, Sean? I didn't really have much time to
yes,
dive into it.
you know, what he was looking for is that's like a transitional checklist from unit 2 to unit 3. So, I mean, there's that other document in there that basically does what he was looking for. It just wasn't in the checklist form. So, I mean, I'll look at it again. I just have SCDN tomorrow and Friday, but I have time now. And our Wednesday deeper dive for K through 2 next week got canceled. We didn't get enough. We have enough for the other 2, it looks like, but not for K through 2. So I'll have time on Wednesday to do some
Yeah.
work.
You know, the other thing it reminded me of that I don't think we ever really dealt with that one lesson that had those resources that were no longer available. And I thought it might have been that lesson about the Kalahutik or whatever the heck that name of that place is.
Oh, the Kahoyik in Turkey.
Yeah.
So
Nancy
maybe, I mean,
had
maybe
some-
this is a good time to come back around to it anyway.
Yeah.
And Nancy had some stuff that she had put together that, so we need to touch base with her on that because I think that would be helpful.
Yeah.
All righty. Sounds like a plan.
All righty.
Well, thank
You
you
had a
both for
stressful
being here.
day.
It was good seeing you.
All right.
So,
Donna,
All
I
right.
think I'll see you Friday, I hope. I'll let you know if I have to change it, but it should be okay.
okay, all right,
All
sounds
right.
good.
All right. Have a
Great.
good night, guys. Talk to you
Bye.
soon.
See ya.
All right,
Bye.
bye-bye.